artists need their names inside of everybody's mouths. The problem is these mouths have nothing to say about you. And so your quick fix is advertising. Well, thing is, with an advertising plan, you kind of lean on that because you say, maybe my talent isn't good enough, or it's good enough and it's not getting heard, right? So the question is it really advertising that you need, or is it publicity that you need? Problem is, we're not getting heard. But why? And we got to talk about that coming up right here on the Music Money Makeover Show. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Music Money Makeover Show. My name is Casey Graham. Let's address our advertising issue and our publicity issue. Okay, so a lot of you all run ad campaigns and they're successful. You get the click-throughs that you want, you get the streams that you want. Great, but you're still seeming to struggle a little bit. Why is that? Well, we have to jump into a little thing called publicity. Check it out. So publicity versus advertising. Publicity is the art of getting people to talk about you. Okay, advertising, on the other hand, is about reinforcing your message and cementing your position in the market. In the grand scheme of things, publicity is the offense. Advertising is the defense. So now that you understand that, in the beginning, what I said about why are you continuing to struggle is the simple fact that you're on the defense. And people can't understand why you're trying to sell them hard on something when they don't know much about you. This is why it's like you're trying to sell someone a deflated balloon. Like, yeah, the balloon can be inflated, but the customer is like, well, I want to know what's going to go in the balloon and what color is it going to be and and you haven't told them anything about the balloon. Just, I have a deflated balloon for sale and I'm not going to give you the details so you can relate to what I'm selling. Check it out. It's coming down the line. So look at this. What are forms of publicity? Influencer videos and collaborations. Blogger news articles, podcast interviews, radio interviews. You notice that when it comes to publicity, it's always around, a give and receive type of thing. Two people, right? You got interviews, or you have a reader that's reading a blog or a news article, or you're doing a video with an influencer, right? And you're getting people to relate to your product. Public relations. The only way they can relate to it is if there's a communication, not a, hey, take this advertisement in, read it, listen to it. All right. That's going to give you some type of relations, but not the relations that people want to know. So imagine you walk into a supermarket and you see some snacks on the shelf, right? But if the cover really interests you, which is the advertisement, which is the cover, then you flip it over and you have the label readers out there who read the label and I want to know what's in the ingredients. I can relate to that. This looks pretty clean. Where are these people from? And then you read the story on the side next to the nutrition facts, right? So you're like, oh, okay, cool. Homegrown this and that. Now you're relating to the product in the bag. Remember, the front of the chip bag was a chip bag now. The front of the chip bag was the advertisement. The back of the chip bag was the story in which you will relate to what's going on inside of the bag. And that is the two factors. You see two sides of the chip bag. And so we got to have two forms of communication, a give and take here, right? Back and forth for someone or the public to relate to you. And that is publicity. And this is why in the beginning you were struggling when you were running those ads, because when you take the ads off, the public is not relating to you. They're only seeing the front of the chip bag, not the back. You get what I'm saying? So now, check it out. What are forms of advertising? Well, you got playlisting, music video ads, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook ads, radio campaigns, and banner ads. Okay? Now, this is not the actual post, even though your post could be an ad in and of itself. That is more a relations campaign, a publicity campaign to tell your story. But a physical ad, advertising a micro music video, advertising that your single is now on Spotify, putting the music video ads on YouTube, even playlisting, putting it in a Spotify playlist, running a playlist campaign. If the person doesn't know anything about you, the only way they can relate to you is how the song sounds, how up-tempo it is, and then if they get into you, then they get a chance to listen to the lyrics. But ultimately, it is just a form of advertising. So this is the surface level stuff. This is your defense and your reinforcement. So if you start out on social media back here, and I didn't put like social media posts, but you can use your social media posts for publicity. But if you start off telling your story, the buzzword, the current buzzword, telling your story through these forums or through social media, then when you go and reinforce your position, once you start to get some clout back with the consumers who already know about you because the public is already relating, that means that there's word of mouth in the street. Now, when you run the ad campaign, it does you a lot more good than no good. I'm not going to say harm, but a lot more good than no good, because there are people who are already relating with you, which means that they can go and further talk about you, word of mouth, and then you can ante it up by actually running an ad campaign. All right. So now, using advertising, like I said, to reinforce publicity. Publicity should be your initial goal. It's about conveying your message and purpose to the masses. It is what it is. Once you've established yourself as the hottest new artist on the scene, you scale your first mountain. But beware, other competitors will soon try to encroach on your territory. This is when you'll need to start advertising to maintain your position while climbing to the next peak. So say, you're in Atlanta, you know how this is a very saturated area for a lot of newbies to get started in the music, the music industry. So you're coming up and you're starting to sell venues, not sell out, but you're starting to do let's say you're selling out if you're in Atlanta, you're selling out the small room at Smith's Old Bar, 125 ticket capacity, right? You're doing that on like maybe a 6-week basis. Like you can go and you can do another show around the city and people can come out and see you, right? Okay. What you want to do now is you want to start advertising within this market. Even though everybody's trying to run ads in Atlanta, you want to reinforce your position in some type of advertisement way, whether it be through the street team methods or through, social media or whatnot. Once people are starting to talk about you, they're coming to your shows and stuff, you want to run the ads. And then you want to pull off and you want to go anyway, it's the whole campaign that can go with that. I don't want to go too far in the deep with that. But you get what I'm saying. Now, how much should I spend on ads? Because this is a common question too. Your budget for ads should be proportional to the reinforcement your brand needs in the market. A lot of times, like I said in the beginning, you all are running ads first before you're getting your publicity campaign out there. Meaning, hey world, this is me. Look at me. This is who I am. Do you like it? Do you relate to it? Great. Come follow me. Right? After you do that, then when you need to reinforce all the new fans that you've gotten, like good, we got a bunch of fans. We need to get more people on. We need to reinforce what we built already. Then we run the ads, and that should be how much you need. So if you've got X amount of people that's on your bandwagon and you want to double it, then you say, okay, we're going to set the budget to double what we have. Now, do I need a PR agent? Great question. Only if you're trying to push a certain story out to the media about you or your art, or if your image has been tarnished and it needs to be cleaned up. That is generally when you will need the PR agent, especially from a beginner stage or intermediate stage, simply because between you and your team and the muscle that y'all have, y'all should be able to reach out to some of the base media markets, and eventually they will pick up your story and run with it. You know what I'm saying? It's only when you need to give them a certain narrative about yourself because you're getting ready to release a project and you're going to put a lot of money into it, would you actually need a PR agent. Okay? So don't go hiring them just because you heard you were supposed to do that. People did this a lot back in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, and 2010s. Okay? But it's not really necessary. Just put in the work. It's going to take you a minute, but just put in the work, and some of these press outlets will begin to reach out to you, or they will acknowledge your story or your request to have a write-up simply because they checked out your profile and they see that you're working. Okay, now get to work and build a publicity strategy. It's time to construct a publicity strategy based on the resources you have to amplify your message. Remember, influencer videos and collaboration is a great way to get your story out there. Podcast interviews, blog or news articles, radio interviews. The way you do this is you say, we're going to tell this story about myself over the course of this amount of time during the period that we drop X amount of records. Now, when we're promoting the records and we're promoting ourselves at the same time, people get a perceived image about us. Once they have that perceived image, then they go out into the streets and tell people about the narrative that we put out there. This is why you see artists who go to Sway in the Morning and the Breakfast Club, and they end up talking about the same thing. Like everybody knows the album's coming out. That's why they're pretty much there, but then they ask them about the same questions that they're into because it controls the narrative so that they can get people to relate to them and what they're trying to do in the moment. That's how it works. You can do the same thing with social media. You just got to turn your camera on and start telling people about you. Now, all this is great to come up with this strategy, and it will further develop your image and it will further get you out there. But it's not great unless you have a foundation to set it on business-wise, which is why I've created this. This is called the 60-Day Record Label Course. It's a framework to establish your record label in a perfect 60-day sequence. Okay? Ultimately, all that PR work, all that advertising work that you're thinking about putting in or that you're already doing is probably going to go undermined because you don't have a foundation on which you're running your business. I know you're artists, you're probably a 1 or 2 person team, and this is the last thing that you're thinking about. But we got to set up your LLC and bank account flawlessly to work together with some base level anonymity. And we got to set up your records and publishing division to collect domestic and international publishing royalties without the middleman taking 15%. It's going to be a wild ride to that third project, right? But when we get there, we don't want a middleman in the way. You want to utilize the contract templates to get you in the game right away. And all this stuff below is covered. You can find the link to this course right down below. But before or after you start the course or you finish the course, book a call with me and let's develop a strategy for you to win out here. And if this is your first time watching the show, grab the free stuff below. All right. Ultimately, success is what we want. So we got to understand the balance between publicity and advertising and when to use both. We're going to create some effective messaging due to understanding that. And then you'll have a competitive advantage against all the other people in your market simply because you know the difference between the two and you know how to use the two. All right. You'll get increased audience engagement, brand consistency, and cost efficiency because you're not running ads trying to figure out why nobody's connecting with you. You get what I'm saying? But this is probably where you are, and you will end up here if you continue to do what you do. Mismanagement of everything, inconsistent branding, and just ignoring feedback altogether will just put you in a position of failure. And we don't want to be there. We want to be back here, okay? Now, in the beginning of this video, you probably were still stuck on advertising and you didn't really understand what publicity was. But if you can move some of that publicity in, you can change from a struggling artist trying to get your message out there to one who's more strategic, that has a message that begins to be championed by the general public and the artsy community or the music lovers community in your local region or city. All right, music money makers, if you make music, you should always make money. Log on to musicmoneymakeover.com, grab the 60-day record label course, jump into it, engulf it, take it in, all right? And then book a call there and download the free stuff right below this video. Matter of fact, everything is right below this video. And I'll see you next time. Peace.